Hey everybody, welcome back to the Look It All podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing Barry Season 4, as well as the season finale, series finale. The season and series has ironically been coming to a close at kind of the same times as other big name shows that are coming in and introducing, and some are coming out. Other ones I'm thinking of are like Yellow Jackets, another very interesting show. Season 2 just ended. Succession, the series just ended on the same night as Barry season 4. A lot of big names are coming and going, passing through. But I wanted to talk about season 4 of Barry because I kind of feel a little bit like we were some of the people that were following Barry. We were some of the first run viewers of Barry. We were the believers of Barry. Now, series finales can be difficult, I'll be honest. I think that there's kind of this double-edged sword that we have with finales. Now, when I say that, I mean we want to always see what happens in a finale, but is it going to satisfy the masses? Now, I think this show took very bold swings and very interesting directional turns. Um, and overall, I think the ending of Barry season 4 and Barry as a series worked pretty dang good, with some caveats. This show felt like it started out as very much kind of a dramatic, like a dramedy kind of, and it felt like the show was being pushed into a direction that was way more of a reactionary feel towards the viewer. So I do have a little bit of rose-colored glasses going into this, just knowing that Bill Hader has taken time to do all these interviews, and he's taken time to say, you know, a lot of people have said that they like the character Barry and stuff like that, wherein as in fact he actually hates the character Barry. And the character Barry is kind of a despicable individual, and it feels like the writers in season 4 really emphasize that to a T. Now, we've seen antagonists, I guess, that have gone all the way from like Breaking Bad, kind of like the turncoat from, you know, normal average Joe to villain, major villain of the crime industry, I guess. Crime industry, what am I talking about? You know, crime world. Um, but we've seen other turncoats that are a little bit more subtle, and then we've seen this story told several different ways. But this is I don't know if Barry was ever supposed to be kind of a redeeming character, so that I think that's one exception with this character. Let's talk about the ending real quick so that I can kind of get it off my chest and regurgitate it. I'm doing a lot of it off memory, and I've spent about a month since I've seen it, so just bear with me. I've got the Wikipedia up here as well too. So let's do the final episode of Barry so we can kind of cover it by that. And by the way, we are going to be talking spoilers for the entire season. Uh, Before we get into it, should you watch the series? Um, I think you should. It's a solid. If it was like a movie, it'd be like an 8 out of 10 kind of thing. It's extremely entertaining. It's extremely compelling. I will say it leaves you colder at the end than I would have wanted. It's a very isolating show, and despite it having some of the funniest bits of comedy in there, whether it's physical comedy or anything else, uh, I think the cinematic value of Barry is absolutely worth warranted seeing the series. Now, um, I honestly, if you wanted to stop at the end of season three, I would not be opposed to that. I know from a creative standpoint, they're like, there's a whole nother season that's the season four very much feels like the extra lap, like the unnecessary extra lap that they kind of made them do. It really does feel like at the end of if it would have ended at season three, I think this probably would have been relatively a perfect show because of the balance that it was able to to mix. Season four is it feels brutal in ways that I don't know if it always made sense for, and it feels kind of like it's like punishing the viewer. I think I said this on the Dave Chen podcast, Decoding TV. It feels like anti fan service. It's like, oh, you like this character? Okay, well, we're gonna kill them. Oh, you want to ship these people? You want these people to end up together? Oh, that's definitely not gonna happen. Oh, you like this character? Oh, that they're gonna get blamed for everything. It's like so many different aspects of this. It was like it's like what you wanted to happen was definitely not going to happen. So I was like, okay. And it to the point where it felt like it was kind of punishing the viewer a little bit. And when I said, Bill Hader was out there doing interviews and he was, I had heard the grapevine. I haven't watched any of these interviews, so take it as a grain of salt. I had heard that he doesn't really like the character, and he was getting a lot of positive feedback about the character. So it kind of feels like they were regressing this character to be even more unlikable. And I felt like there's levels you should do that, and I feel like this show just ratchets up how fast it happens. Like the descent for the Breaking Bad stories, terrible things happen along about over the course of 5 seasons, but those seasons are 45-minute episodes. They are approximately 10 episodes per season, give or take. Um, so there's a lot more time for the the leisure or kind of understanding the world in between. But because we are on such a condensed time schedule, I feel like the 20 to 30 minute segments or 20 to 30-minute episodes were generally good until they were going to some of these dramatic parts that kind of felt like it was chopped up in the middle. And I was like, I just want to spend a little bit more time understanding some motivations, or if there is a time jump, why we're here, what this happened. There's so many questions and stuff like that. And it wasn't types of questions that necessarily um, are going to diminish the value, but it's just like, well, that would have been nice to know. It would have been kind of cool just to know some of the logistical things, but it's like the show's not interested in that. Their show's like plot, 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 and we got to push how bad these characters are. And I'm not saying that they ruin the character or anything like that, because I feel like there's always been a balance within Barry. It's always been, you know, even hand of about 40%, 30%, 35% comedy, and then the rest was like 70% like, whoa, this is pretty intense. So slash some suspense and then like a splash of action. And this season felt like it tilted the scale to like, all right, we're gonna have a few jokes at the beginning, and then it's gonna be a cold ass season. Like Succession, I thought was a cold ass season because of the topic matter. I do want to talk about the kind of comparisons, but it was kind of shocking how cold it was. It felt like a hat on a hat on a hat. It's like, wow, I get it. It would be like something terrible happened at the end. I'd be like, wow, I get it. And then another terrible thing would happen. I'd be like, wow, I get it. And then characters watching something else terrible happening at the end of Barry. And then I'm like, okay, I fucking get it. It's a terrible world. Everyone fucking I was just like, I get it. Um, and at that point, I was like, all right, these creators are stamping their creative symbol on it and saying we're done with this world, and not like they're like fuck you kind of like I felt like Game of Thrones was a fuck you kind of thing. It's like we're just gonna bulldoze through all this shit. It's not like they did that and like skipped 3 episodes, but I think there was probably another episode or two that we could have explored what was really going on in these machinations to lead us here. I do feel like it was a little bit on overdrive, like we were going faster, 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 and then we had all these motivations and places to go, people to see, plots to wrap up. Um, but overall, like I said, it's uh it's a strong, bold ending that I think is going to polarize a larger subsection of people than maybe they had anticipated, unless they had anticipated it. Because like a lot of people thought The Sopranos, when they were watching the end of that their TV had just cut off or something like that. It wasn't like that. This is more like, wow, that was kind of a bummer, I guess. But I think what this really shows is Bill Hader is so versed. Like I think he directed every single one of these episodes. The direction in the technical production, in the casting, Sally. I haven't really talked about Sally that much. Just that character has blossomed so much, and all of these other characters, the co-stars that are filling it, with Fuchs to Gene, Sally, the entire cast is just a colorful cast to watch and experience this crazy world with. It's kind of like the Coen brothers esque. And if anything, Barry definitely shows that Bill Hader has the ability. He's probably going to direct a movie after this, if were to guess. I don't have any news off the top of my head, but if I were a movie studio, I'd be like, all right, let's get this guy in the give him $10 million, $20 million or something to make us a movie. Because I definitely think he has the directional chops. Everything that was shown within the show, regardless if I agreed with like what was going on the script, I felt was beautifully shot. It felt like naturalistic in some parts that were almost like shocking. Like instead of having like a big blazing boom, 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 shoot 'em out, it would be like just blam, everyone just blasts and everyone's dead in like 10 seconds. And then the camera would just pan by. It would just, it was like, whoa. So yeah, from a creative level, I definitely think that this sticks the landing. Let's kind of get into the spoilers. Should you watch it if you haven't watched Barry? I kind of, I haven't really spoiled too much of it, but I will say it's absolutely worth it if you're looking for an entertaining watch, but it is a cold watch. I don't think that this is an ending everyone is going to enjoy. So let's get into the final episode, the 8th episode and final episode, season 4. Spoilers ahead. Sally confesses to John that she and Barry are fugitives. When Hanks shows Fuchs that he has Sally and John hostage. So Hank makes a hell of a turn throughout this season. I'm just kind of going to go through all this as I'm talking. It might be a little bit jumbled. There is a giant time jump in the middle of this series, and I think that's kind of where the seams start to break. Now, before then, at the beginning, Barry is in jail. He's getting ready to get capped by NoHo Hank, and then Fuchs is in jail as well. And then there's a giant feud between all three of them, and everybody wants to kind of kill each other. Eventually, Barry gets out. NoHo Hank ends up having to realign with his old mafia. I think they're Ukrainian or something. I don't remember exactly. Maybe Russian. I'm a little bit ill on what exactly he was, but basically everyone is against each other. NoHo Hank ends up having to kill Cristobal, and I think that once we lose Cristobal in the NoHo Hank of it all, the series changes the tone completely. I was not expecting the tone of it. It almost feels like a different show. So yeah, the main aspects of the show, the comedy, the life, the love. I didn't realize how much it was reliant on the NoHo Hank and Cristobal, quote unquote, love, because the Barry and Sally romance, there is no romance. It's completely done. I mean, there really shouldn't be, because they're both not great people, obviously for different reasons. Barry's just a complete nut job, and Sally's just, I think she's kind of compulsive a little bit, but she's also got a lot going on. She also was attacked last season, and I think it was last season. And this whole beginning of this season's kind of divided in two halves. It's kind of before the time jump and after the time jump. And actually kind of during the entire series for her, she's kind of just visualizing this guy that's still kind of haunting her, her dreams and stuff like that. And there's this, kind of crazy segment where when after the time jump, she's in the house and she pictures the house being attacked and raided by this guy, and she's just completely kind of losing it on so many levels. Barry, what I've heard, I didn't realize this at first, but Bill Hader said he wrote him to kind of regress and age a little bit, kind of less mature, and just by the way he's talking, he kind of does sound like he's regressed a lot in that aspect. Um, Gene is basically on the run. I feel bad for kind of Gene. I mean, he's not a great guy, but he I think he has mostly good intentions, and then he's just kind of wrong place, wrong time at a lot of things, and he tries to do so many things, but ultimately at the end, it just feels like he's he's kind of stepped on, and I don't know if this season, if the previous seasons naturally lead us to a Gene that's being stepped on this heavily. So let's continue on with this, and then obviously Fuchs. Fuchs is beaten, battered, molded into the Raven, this badass like uh, guy that's done time and stuff like that. It's pretty wild what they turned him into. I was actually pretty surprised. Um, all the makeup they got him in, it was kind of funny. Um, but let me see. What is this thing doing? Yeah, Stephen Root was one of my favorite parts of the entire series. Just his transformation and how he's treating Barry from so terribly to wanting to kill him to do all these things, and we kind of get this real backstory of actually how long Fuchs has been in Barry's life. It's kind of actually sad how long it's been in their relationship, how it ends. So when Hank shows Fuchs that he has Sally and John hostage, Fuchs and his men go to Hank's headquarters, where Fuchs offers to disappear if Hank admits to killing Cristobal. And at this point, they Hank is not admitting to killing Cristobal on the surface. Like the only people that know are the mob that is with NoHo Hank at this point. But he just wants him to admit it. Now, I gotta say, the scene of Cristobal dying, so sad. Just seeing Hank come from outside, and then all you hear is the gunshots, and then opening the door, and then it's just like the direction's impeccable. The blocking's amazing. It's just like I feel like it's only in like either one shot or two shots that they do get this coverage, and it's just like beautifully tragic and excellently executed. And yeah, this show has turned into so much more of a tragedy in this fourth season than I think the third season was even alluding to at all. So, continuing on, Hank refuses and a shootout erupts. Only Fuchs, John, and Sally survive. At first, when all this happened, I was like, where is John and Sally? Because they were like, it was very unclear about where they were at. And at the end of it, it's all you hear is like Sally like calling for Fuchs, and Fuchs just cares about saving John really at this point. And um, Sally's I thought Sally was dead at this point because it's just like a shootout. Everyone falls. It's not like very quote unquote cinematic. Like it's just like it happens and everyone's dead all of a sudden. And I think Hank gets shot in the heart, I believe, and falls at the footsteps of a Cristobal statue behind him, and it's like gold and it's very elegant, and he has his hand put out, and Hank kind of goes to reach his hand. Beautiful ending, kind of Shakespearean. It was tragic. It was it felt like one of the natural endings I would want for this show, and it feels like um it came to the right conclusion. My only thing is Hank's turn felt very out of left turn a little bit, just because they were so buddy buddy. Like even that one scene when him and Cristobal are kind of going back and forth, talking to everybody around the table, and the camera's following them, and it once it captures one of them, it captures the other one, and then the other one walks in the frame, and then the other one comes. It's like a tracking panning shot, I guess. And it was all happening in like a Dave and Buster's. It was so fucking funny happening, and the Rat-a-tat teamwork they had just fucking worked. And so seeing how all of this ended at the end was all that much more sad about how it ended. So let me see. A heavily armed Barry arrives, but Fuchs allows him to leave unharmed with his family before disappearing. They don't have any words. He just has John, and it's the boy from It. I don't have his name in front of me, but I like the actor. Um, and he lets John go with Barry. They don't say anything. He just Fuchs just kind of nods his head, and it's we'll see you kind of thing. And then Barry goes off with his son. I did forget to mention at the very beginning that there's kind of like this little commentary about the short comedy bits of commentary or satirical commentary are pretty damn funny, and it's just like how ironic it was with uh, Bill Hader going in. It looked like a Walmart of some sort of superstore. Of course, only in America you can go in heavily strapped with like 4 or 5 uh, like AK-47 type looking guns. I don't know gun models, so big, small guns, whatever. Some SMGs and stuff like that, and everyone was just like giving the big old wave and stuff like that. It's like no one gave a fuck. I felt like he goes up there looking crazy as hell. He's like, I need guns, and the ladies were like, what you need? And then he's like walking out, and he's just like strapped up from all the way, from his ass up, just has guns everywhere. He's just like walking out, and of course the viewers thinking at the beginning of this episode, they're like, holy shit, he's gonna go fucking rip somebody in half. He's gonna just take out the whole mob. And the funny thing is, he's like going through Walmart as he's leaving, and the greeter's like, "We'll see ya," and it's like everyone's just cool with him, just looking crazy, and it's just like such a commentary on like how the world, the state of the world is today. No one gives a fuck, I guess, and and he's trying to get into his car, and as he's trying to get into his car, he's like he's like trying to squish all his fucking guns that are attached to his back in his little like Toyota Camry, and he's just trying to squeeze in there. It's so stupid, oh, and funny and sad at the same time. It's so many levels. This shit got levels. So yeah, that's Barry shows up when he gets Fuchs, sees Fuchs and John, and he's strapped up like that, and so he's like, "All right, now I gotta go kill Kusino." Now I do feel like the turn to kill Kusino was kind of quick. The time jump is the biggest thing about this season 4 that I have a problem. A lot of series have a time. The series that end like to do a couple things. They like to do like dream states. Like, is this really happening? They like to do best of episodes, and then they like to do the flash forwards, which is basically what this did. A lot of times they'll just do a flash forward to kind of progress how shit has progressed, or how big they've gotten, how strong they've gotten, how weak they've gotten, how sad they've gotten. The story of things progress, or how crazy they've gotten. If you're in Breaking Bad or something like that, or what they've been doing this whole time. So Barry, they do a flash forward from when Barry breaks out of jail, goes to Sally, and says basically, let's get out of here. We don't see how they get out of here. We don't see any of that. Um, but we get a flash forward, I want to say in episode 4. Is it 4? I believe it's 4. So yeah, I believe it's 4. I don't have the location right. I thought they were like in Arizona or something like that. Can't remember. I don't have the place. Anyways, the the show at the beginning is doing just like they were on the last just like they were in the last season. They're doing these editing flourishes that are beautiful. It's like they'll have like this scene happening, and then it'll change into another scene within the same background. It's almost kind of like a not a Broadway, but like a theatrical kind of transition, and it's really beautifully done. Except on like a higher budget. I think last season they were doing it from like Barry would be like walking on the street to walking on the beach to walking, and people would show up and disappear, and it was kind of very dreamlike. This is kind of the same way, but the way they get the transition into this um, time jump, they basically time jump into what feels like a quote unquote like Mormon version of themselves. They're very like put, quote unquote put together. Barry's wearing glasses. He looks like standard dad now. He's like ultra Christian, conservative in a way, I guess. And he's talking all of these biblical meanings and stuff like that. Like he's super biblical for what I feel like. I understand that they're trying to maybe have like a critique to people that are a little bit overly religious or something like that, that they might get a little extra crazy. I don't know where that came from. I don't feel and I don't see in previous seasons or in any other podcasts of people talking or referring to him as some sort of messianic figure, or even referring to religion even as a subsection of a reasoning of why he's doing this. I didn't feel like that was a reasoning at all. So when he was reciting Bible verses when in this time jump, I just felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. And Sally, at this point of the time jump, she's, at the beginning of the time jump, she's just like kind of distraught. She's in full on actress mode. She's got like this thick Southern accent. People are like, kind of mistreating her a little bit at work, and there's just like some very interesting scenes that they have her go through with regarding that one guy in the pantry. I mean, she's like basically almost rips that guy a new one. But with saying all that, I gotta say the acting in this is so fucking good. I don't feel like there's no small parts. Just like Succession, I gotta say it's just one of these super impressive feats. And so on top of that, let me think anything else. Sally is, for her to go back with Barry, she does have this line that says, I feel safe with you," when she's visiting him in jail in the first episode, which I guess is constitution enough to say that she wants to go run away with him. I don't know if that completely translated for me. So there's just a few qualms I have about how we got to this ending that I don't know felt naturally we got there. So that was one of them. The reasoning that she would run away with Barry, go have a child with him, and we didn't see the entire pregnancy kind of thing. I think it's like was it 8 years or something like that? They're underground. Um, so it's just like it, I have a lot of questions. I know that they want us to kind of live in the limbo state. It's like, kind of don't worry about it. We don't worry about how Sally uh, dealt with the pregnancy. Was Barry tentative? Was he killing the entire time? What was going on? I guess it's really just not important because they were evidently laying low. Gene was on the run, looking crazy as hell. I got to say, when he's reenacting all of that stuff about what happened in the previous seasons of with Janice and everything to the guy at the beginning, the first episode, so fucking funny, so fucking funny. Because he starts getting sweatier as he's reenacting the entire series of what happened. I just, oh fuck it, I'm gonna miss this show when it comes to the comedic, because when it was fucking funny, it was so funny. It was so damn funny. Which I do want to kind of just maybe briefly talk about Succession Barry endings, just how they ended and how the shows kind of compare in a little bit. Probably do a spoiler section for those at the end of this if we got time. If we don't, then we'll maybe do it on aftercast if y'all really want to. Just let me know in the comments. So let's finish up. So a heavily armed Barry allows Fuchs to. A heavily armed Barry arrives, but Fuchs allows him to leave unharmed with his family before disappearing. Meanwhile, Jim and the district attorney hold a press conference to publicly condemn as sorry, I can't fucking speak. Meanwhile, Jim and the district attorney hold a press conference to publicly condemn Gene as the prime suspect in Janice's reopened case. This felt like a slap in the face of this character completely. I just I'm trying to think how this makes sense at the end. Let me continue. Sally, like, because there's so much evidence that Janice was murdered by Barry, in my opinion, and Janice's father. Like, I thought he comes off as such a competent character. I feel like it throws his competency under the bus. I mean, it's obviously throwing the competency of the entire police force, but he felt like above it, and so it really kind of I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, this the entire series has shown that the cops are incompetent, but the individual people that we're following were pretty competent, even Janice. Sally urges Barry to turn himself in and exonerate Gene, but he claims that the three of them surviving means he has been redeemed, which I did not really buy that at all. That was my whole problem with the religious angle. Where did it come from? Why was it always there? If it was, did I miss it? Not being raised that way. Maybe I just didn't see the signs or something. Maybe it's good I didn't see the signs, but I was just like, I don't see how this constitutes as him being redeemed. So she leaves with him. Sorry, Sally leaves with John overnight, and Barry searches for them at Gene's house. Just as Gene's talent agent, Tom, convinces Barry to turn himself in, a vengeful Gene enters and shoots Barry dead. And I think the last thing Barry's like says like, "Oh," and he's like blown. His head's blown right off. Well, his head's not blown off. I think he's just got shot in the head. This is a very interesting shot with the puppets in the background looking all crazy. Just the setting, the aesthetic is just like whoa. And before that was, is Gene going to shoot? He looks at the gun and it's like, is Gene going to shoot himself or is Gene going to shoot Barry or is what's going to happen? I never thought that Barry was going to get out of this series alive. I guess I just kind of was like, how's it going to happen? Now, for him to go down by Gene, that does make sense. Now, what I feel like doesn't make sense is the rest of this. Just as Gene's talent agent, Tom, convinces, Gene enters and shoots Barry dead. Years later, Sally is a high school theater director. So we have another time jump. Gene has been sentenced to life in prison, and Barry has been laid to rest with full military honors. Now, this is when it comes in. It's a different kid before, sorry. A teenage John watches the biopic made about Barry, which depicts Gene as a villain and Barry as a tragic hero. It's completely over the top. It's looks like a Hallmark movie, and we got John, which is Barry's teenage son, watching him as the tragic hero, and it seems that he is completely happy about it, which I don't know what to I don't there's a lot of like, I don't know, meaning that is going on in this. It's like, is he happy that his father is looking like a tragic hero? I mean, he knows what really happened. He knows his father was not a good man. His mother's told that. And also his mother is just, Sally did not really want to be a mother. We don't really have to talk about that too much, but it was kind of sad, their relationship, her and John. And also Sally's denying dates at the end of this Hallmark looking stairwell that they're leaving in with snow falling down. Look beautiful. Anyways, the ending is just kind of like, wow. So Barry does die. Gene does. I think they said Gene's in jail. And I just, throwing the words on screen, Janice Moss's father thinking that Gene did it and have because of the 250,000. I just maybe he did take the money, but there was so much evidence I felt like that you could prove that it wasn't Gene. Like, did Gene have the worst fucking lawyer in history? I was like, there's so much evidence. There's so much evidence that Barry's at fault. And I felt I felt like this show was smarter than that through the first three seasons, and maybe even the first three and a half seasons, and then the last few episodes. It was like they needed to compress a whole lot of shit in like a couple episodes. It feels a little bit rushed. I don't deny and I don't disagree with the ending. I just felt like it just happened so fast. And I was like, wait, what? 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 So yeah, that's kind of my WTF ending of Barry season four. Does it ruin the series for me? No. Does it affect my overall thoughts of how it ends? Yeah, a little bit. Does it make me want to go back and revisit quickly? Not exactly. Knowing where this ends, it is way more of a downer than an upper, as I said earlier. Um, but yeah, let me know what you thought about Barry season four as a series, and then as a season. I think it definitely works as a series finale, but as a season finale, it's a little bit the whole season, season four was a little bit rocky. Although everything from the production, the direction to the casting, obviously the action, the the core aspects of the show still really work. And yeah, I'd still recommend it highly. I think I still have it on my top TV right now as a one, two, three. I think it's the number third that I've watched so far. I need to kind of go back and revise my list. But yeah, so let me know what you thought about Barry season four as a series, season. Like, comment, subscribe, follow. You know what to do. Subscribe if you're gonna drop from right here, and don't want to listen to the Barry Succession kind of. It's going to be like a 2 or 3 minute thing. We're just going to compare the two, why one worked, why one didn't work. But spoilers for Barry season four and Succession series finales starting right now. So if you have not seen Succession season four, hop on out because we're going to spoil it. And Barry season four and series ending, we're going to kind of compare the two endings. So they both ended on the same night. It was kind of a whole whopping lot of emotions happening during this. I I was super impressed by Succession. Now, I think that there is a level of the balance that Succession had. It was a slow descent, whereas I feel like Barry was a super fast descent. And they both ended in moderate downers, but I do feel that Succession was able to balance the landing a whole lot better than the harshness of Barry, and mostly because I do think the time we spent with the characters was a little bit more. I felt like it wasn't quite as beating us over the emotional core. Every single felt like every single scene and Barry for like the last couple episodes was just like an emotional gut punch, and there was no time to breathe, I guess, and kind of live in the world for half a second to just like, all right, terrible shit's happening, let's just fucking calm down for a second. Or like in Succession where Roman will say something funny, or just like fuck, you just like start cussing his ass off for a second, or we cut to what this Barry felt like it was missing was like a core subsection of like the Franks, the Hugos, the Carolinas, the side subsection that are not the main leads that can kind of give us some comedic relief. The comedic relief was NoHo Hank and Cristobal, and they became such main comedic reliefs. They became main cast members, and to the point where they had to be taken off. I think if NoHo Hank and Cristobal ended up kind of doing their own thing, I think uh, the show might have actually had a stronger ending, in my opinion. I know NoHo Hank and Cristobal are terrible people, and in the context of the world. But the more I think about it, if we would have had at least a happy ending for or some of our favorite characters, I think we might have had a little bit more of a an ending I would want to revisit quickly. It's not like I don't want to rewatch Barry, but I do feel like, at least we had the fan service that we had in Succession from the Tom and Greg shippers. Everyone loved those scenes of them together and how crazy they would get, what they would get up to. The problem was we didn't have a Tom and Greg shipping collaboration in Barry. Barry was a lot smaller in scale and just didn't have the time. And so the more I think about it and talk about it, I can kind of see why one worked over the other. And it mostly comes down to how harsh it was. It does feel like this last few episodes of Barry were very harsh in a way that I don't want to revisit quickly, as opposed to, I don't know, Succession, where I just had a more luxurious time, even though it was, there is, some downers on it. So that's kind of the roundup between the two. I just wanted to talk about it, kind of capture the time, because it's very often that we have two major shows that I kind of hold to high esteem. I mean, they're both top five for me right now of the year, um, but that would end on the same night. That's very bold, to say the least. I'm not sure about smart, but I would almost be rather watching Barry through the summer than having to watch it at the same time of Succession. But whatever, it was neither here nor there. Yeah, but let me know what you thought about Barry, Succession, all of that. We have the Succession coverage if you want to check that out, the series in the feed. Go ahead and check that out. We have more podcasts coming down the pipe. You know what to do. LuckyDogPodcast.com. Also check out the patreon.com/LuckyDogPodcast. We have movie reviews. We have cartoon reviews. We got old school reviews. We got the full library reviews. Check that out. Support us there. It's only less than a cup of coffee a month. And then you can check us out. We also have a limited time offering. So if you go to patreon.com/LuckyDogPodcast, you'll be able to join for free. Sign up if you want to, or you don't. But you have some content there waiting for you if you like it. Again, YouTube's, Twitch, social medias, we're on all of them. Whatever is going to be the verses, the multiverses, we're probably going to be on those too, whatever it is. But you know what to do. Take it easy.